Welcome to the Gasket Design detail on page 3-21 of our course book, AutoCAD 2011 Tutorial, First Level 2D Fundamentals. When you start a brand new drawing, either by picking the white sheet icon at the top or going to the application menu, the big red A, and picking New Drawing, you will have an option here to use the ACAD template file. For these assignments, we're going to use the ACAD DWT template file and go ahead and pick open. The first thing we'll do is save our file. Pick the save icon and then navigate to the folder that you'd like to save this file in and call it the Gasket Design or the assignment that you're using for your class, and pick save. On page 3-23, we're asked to turn our snaps on and then rest your pointer on the bottom left icon, snap mode, right click and pick settings. Another way of getting to this drafting settings dialog box, as suggested by the book, would be to go to Tools and down to Drafting Settings, and we're in the same dialog box. We want to change our grid X spacing to 1. Click inside grid Y spacing to change that to 1 too. Go ahead and pick OK. Changing your units on 3-22 only affects the way that the numbers are showing in the command line. It's an option for you to change your precision by typing in units. On the top of page 3-24, they're asking us to perform a zoom extents. You can either double click on the wheel of your mouse, that will be a zoom extents, or you can go to the navigation bar at the far right side of your screen and pick zoom extents. Or the book is recommending that as an option we can go to the View tab, which is underneath the pull downs menu bar, and in the Navigate panel we can use our zoom commands here by picking zoom extents. Verify that your snap mode and your grid display is on, and then at the bottom of page 3-24 we can start the line command in the Home tab. Looking at the bottom left corner at the coordinates, we're going to find 4, 6, which would be over 4 and up 6. You'll know that you're at 4, 6 when at the very bottom left corner of your display you see 4, 6 and left click. You have a choice of using ortho or polar tracking at the bottom left corner. Ortho mode will limit your cursor movement to just horizontal and vertical lines. Polar tracking will give you the option of creating here straight vertical and horizontal lines, but also the flexibility of moving your mouse around in the space to create angled lines. Here we're going to pull our mouse down until we see Polar 2, left click, and then pull your mouse over 1 and left click. Pull your mouse down 2.5 and left click, and then pull your mouse over here to about 7 and left click. Right click and pick enter. We're going to use the Object Snap toolbar in the menu bar, which we did get by using the drop down next to the little printer. We were able to show the menu bar. We can now go to the Tools, pull down here and down to Toolbars, over to AutoCAD and over to Object Snap. We'll start the line command, and then they're showing us here that we could pick snap to endpoint in order to get to the endpoint of this line, and then pull our mouse over 3 and left click. Right click and pick enter. We have our object snaps off at the very bottom left corner next to polar tracking, and we're using here the object snap overrides. We can now start the circle center radius command, and at the top of page 3-23 we're going to move our cursor to the point 11.5, 6. So at the very bottom left corner of my screen I can see 11.5, 6, and now I'll left click for the center of my center radius circle. Now I'm going to move my cursor to the right until I see a radius or a polar of 1.5 and left click. Now we're going to draw a line, starting the line command at 11, 1.5. It's along the bottom line there that we drew. With our object snaps off, we can now use the grid to get to 11, 1.5 and left click. Then in the object snap toolbar we're going to pick snap to tangent and come close to this circle and left click. Right click and pick enter. We're closing the object snap toolbar by picking the small X at the right side of the toolbar, and then we'll use the extend command. It's underneath the trim command in the modify panel. We'll use the extend command. We can press enter to accept everything as a boundary edge, and then select here this line to extend to the circle. As long as you pick some place between the midpoint and the end of this line, the line will search for a boundary edge towards the right. Right click and pick enter, and now we can use the trim command. Start the trim command, press enter, and then select out the pieces that you don't want. Notice in your command line it does say or shift select to extend. Just wanted to point that out to you. We didn't have to start the extend and then start the trim. We could have pressed shift to toggle between the extend and the trim. Right click and pick enter to go back to the command line. On 3-31 we're going to start the circle option and draw a circle tangent, tangent, radius. We can pick the top of this line here, and then pick the edge of this circle and type in a radius of 1 and enter. Now using the trim command, we can start the trim command, press enter, and pick out what we don't want. We can turn off our snap mode at the bottom left corner so that we can select here the objects easily. Right click and pick enter. On page 3-32 we're going to use the fillet command. In the modify panel we can start the fillet command, right click and pick radius and type in 0.75 and enter. We can then select the bottom horizontal line and this vertical line next to it. Right click to repeat the fillet command, right click to change the radius, type in 0.25 and enter to select here this small horizontal line and this vertical line next to it. All of these objects are individual objects within AutoCAD. To turn them all into one object so that we can easily offset this continuous line or polyline, we're going to use the p-edit command or polyline edit. It's underneath the modify panel title. Click right on the word modify and look for the icon that has the small pencil, the first small pencil. Notice that the type in at the command line is p-edit. Go ahead and start that command. Select any one of your objects and then look at the command line. It says that that object was not a polyline. Do you want to turn it into one? And Y is already in brackets, so we can press enter to accept Y is yes. Then to access these nested options, we can right click and pick join. You can select each one individually, or you can pick in space and pull your mouse across all the objects, selecting all of them to join and then enter. It should say in your command line that 9 were added. We're done editing the polyline. We can press enter to get back to the command line. And now on page 3-34, we can use the offset command in the modify panel. Start the offset command, type in 0.5 and enter. Select your polyline now, it's all one piece, and then pick anywhere inside that shape to create the offset. Right click and pick enter. On page 3-37, we're going to explode this inside polyline and enter. It will go back to individual objects. I started the explode command by selecting the explode icon. Then I selected here the inside polyline and pressed enter. We're going that. Now we can use the fillet command in the modify panel. Right click and pick radius. Type in 0.5 and enter, and select here the angled line and the horizontal line on the inside here. Save your file, and that is the Gasket Design detail.